Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Power of the Voice. I'm so happy you came with us today. So happy every week you're able to come on. If you're logging on, watching on television, whatever platform you're watching it on, so happy you guys are here today. We're going to have an exciting time today. We're going to have a great time together. We're going to just talk, do some fellowship concerning the Word of God and life and destiny. Listen, the show is called The Power of the Voice. So the purpose of the show is so you can be able to hear the voice of God in your life. He speaks in so many different ways. He may speak inside of your soul, inside of your heart. It may even kind of sound like you. It may sound like someone else. His voice is really idea of the abilities for you to be able to be familiar with how he speaks to you. He may speak to you through situations. He may speak to you through your friends, through your circumstances, through life in general. God is always speaking. He is a speaking God. He is a talking God, and we live in a kingdom where it's voice activated. So your voice has the ability to change things in and around your life. So go over to the website, thepowerofthevoice.com, and read some of the blogs. Great stuff God just gives me, and I put it on the blogs, not only just for me. A lot of this is really just to help me. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to be, some type of person to gain notoriety or anything. I'm just doing what I know God has assigned me to do for this season, for this era, for this time. How long it's going to go, I don't know. How long we're going to do this, I have no idea. But while we're in the flow of things, we're just going to let God do what he desires to do. And the rest is really up to him. It's really always up to him. We just feel that sometimes we need to be able to take things into our own hands because we are human, and sometimes we use our own intellect to be our God. So we have to be careful not to allow our own understanding to guide us and let him guide us. So go over to the website, log on. It's free. It's no charge for anything. I'm not collecting anything, not asking you for anything. Just want you to go over and read some of the blogs, watch some of the great videos. Last week we talked about God ordering steps, and your life is being ordered. Things may be out of line, out of chaos, and it may seem confusion. But sometimes that's the way God speaks to us. Sometimes we don't even listen to God. Sometimes unless he puts us in a position where we have to hear from him. Some of us only function in dysfunction. Sometimes the dysfunction is the method in which he uses to minister to us or to help us sometimes, because sometimes we just don't take a counsel and advice from people that we know are seeking God, or sometimes we just allow our own imaginations to run wild, and so we miss God sometimes speaking. So sometimes he speaks in different forms. Go over to the website and watch some of the stuff. It's great. Read some of the blogs. It's wonderful. Come a member. You'll be able to be on the email. You'll get some of the new updates as they come in. And we're doing some new things with that website. I'm going to work on a new series called War Stories. I won't let the cat out of the bag quite yet. But however, that is going to be phenomenal. You're going to have a great time. So, also, we started a prayer line. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call the line and pray. We can pray. You can pray with us. We will pray with you. We'll touch and agree in the heavens for you so that God can move on your life. It's always about talking to God. And we're going to talk about prayer a little bit today. So go over to the number right here and just call it. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's free. It's no cost to you. It's not going to cost you anything but just your time to be able to talk to your God who made you. So happy you guys are here with us today. So today we're going to talk about prayer. We're going to talk about prayer, and then we're going to maybe speak on a little bit of things that I believe God has given to me to minister to you during this time today, which I actually got through prayer. So prayer. What is praying? What does prayer mean? Well, prayer is your ability to access God. That's what prayer is. Prayer is your ability to access God. It gives you the access into the creator of all creations, and you guys can have a communication. You guys can have dialogue. You can have a way to be able to understand each other better. God already knows everything about us, but however, he has to show us who we are, and sometimes we need that understanding. We need to understand who he is, and sometimes he will use it through prayer. he'll be able to show you exactly who he is. So the disciples said, Lord, teach us how to pray, because we don't know how to pray. That was an issue with prayer, because prayer was always seen as a religious type thing. It was only seen as being inside of a four corners in a box. That was the only way that they felt they can communicate with God, while they needed some structure of prayer. Sometimes we can get so religious, or we can get so confident in our ability to be able to do duties or perform things that we think that validates us or allows us to be able to have favor with God. Everybody has to pray. Even Jesus prayed when he was on the earth and he did his mission, called and assigned by God to die. No question about it. He still prayed. He was there when the world was framed. He spoke those things into existence. He performed mighty miracles, walked on water. He healed the sick, raised the dead, and he still prayed. So prayer is very important. It's your ability to access God. You have been given the image and the likeness of God, and in that you also have been given certain things from the Father. You have been given understanding, you've been given wisdom, you've been given grace, you've been given blessings. There are certain things that you've already been given. However, they're locked up in some places in the heavens. They're locked up in the timing of God. They're locked up in just so we're able to get that access to the heavens. There are certain things that are locked up in that realm. And because you're made in God's image and God's likeness, you have the ability to go into that place and grab those things out for your life. There are certain things that are hid and locked up in that mystery because it's up to you to be able to go grab it. He gives you that access. He gives you that free will because, again, you're made in his likeness and his image. So prayer is very important. You always need to touch and agree with people, especially around you. You're here today. You're in the place where you are now because somebody prayed. We don't see somebody who did not know you, and we don't always see prayer when it's happening, but prayer is very powerful. And it may seem sometimes when you're praying, you're just talking, and it may seem like nothing is really happening or you don't see it, but trust me, it is. It's just like a seed that you sow into the ground. When you plant that seed into the ground, it does not produce a harvest overnight, but as it grows in the ground, it will produce fruit. It will produce a harvest, but you have to continue to water it. You have to have it to be in the right atmosphere. You have to be able to nurture it and keep it, and it's going to eventually grow. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's happening. And sometimes even in prayer, you may be able to pray in your mind, or the enemy may start to talk to you in prayer. That is wonderful. If your mind and if the enemy begins to try to talk to you while you're in prayer, that is an indication that you have broken into a place where you have gained access to God. See, the devil is not going to waste any time trying to stop you if you're not doing anything. He's going to make sure that he tries to stop you because you're entering in a place where he sees you are accessing the presence of God. When we walk, when we talk, when we move, there are always angels around us. Those angels that are around us are assigned to us. They're assigned to us to be able to work with us and work for us in this earthly realm. God has assigned those angels to us to be able to move. They are angels that God has directed and has given them a specific thing to do for you. And he's saying, hey, keep them, watch over them, what access they need here. Here's the access. As long as they're walking in the things that I've allowed them, you do what I assign for you to do for them. So they have that access, and what your prayer does is allow those angels to begin to work on your behalf. It may be somebody across town or across the country, and you may come up on their mind. Sometimes that's because of the prayers that you pray. So prayers are always important. You have to always be able to pray, regardless if it's good or if it's bad. Pray. And it's not up to you to answer the prayer. It's not up to you to figure out how the prayer is going to be answered. It's God's responsibility. And if God answers the prayer, that's great. If he does it, that's great. If he does not answer it, that's still great, because that means God has a better plan for you. And God moves things in specific time. We don't have that great level of understanding. Even though we're made in an image, his understanding is far bigger than ours. So our prayer time, our commune time with him, our responsibility is to be able to talk to him. And like I said, it may seem like nothing is happening or you don't see anything, but it is happening. See, you don't see the words that are coming out of my mouth. You hear them. They're moving through waves that are traveling, and it's hitting into your eardrums that are going down into your mind, and you can hear it, and it can actually be going down into your heart, into your spirit. Now, even though you don't see the letter "the" coming out of my mouth, or car, or house, as I speak those words, you hear those words, and they begin to paint a picture into your mind. So it's the same revelation with prayer. Even though you may not feel like you physically feel something has changed, it is changing. It has the ability to be able to move into the heavens on your behalf. Let's say we're in a relationship, right? We go together. You bae, you my boo, and we've been having a great time, a wonderful time, and we got to know each other, but we don't communicate. We never talk. That relationship would completely die because there is no communication. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying how there are people that they knew who was in a relationship, and they was doing great at first, but then there's no communication. It kind of just stopped. It died down, and the relationship now suffers because there is no level of communication. And it could not be something specific. We don't know what the level of communication was about or why it stopped, but they also made an effect in their relationship. And so that's how it is sometimes with God. If we don't take the time to go and talk to our Father, how will we know? You have a child, if you're a child, or you are a child. Either you have a child or you are a child. If you didn't express how you feel, good or bad, because sometimes we think we can go in prayer and we can only express good. Sometimes we just need to be honest with God. It's not like he doesn't know anyways, but sometimes we just need to be like, look, God, I'm a mess. Look, I got to get it together. I got a lot going on in my mind and in my heart, and if you don't help me with this, I don't know what to do. Prayer is not always a last resort, but when you have a lifestyle of prayer, you will pray at any time. You will always be able to access the Father. And see, that's what's so important. That's why the enemy fights you so bad with your prayer. That's why the enemy fights you so bad with praying. That's why your mind, your physical body, that is just not going to leave here. It's going to stay here. That's why those things fight you so bad, because what it does, it puts you in a different category, in a position with communication with God. If I talk to you every single day, you're going to begin to get familiar with who I am and know my voice. And it's not going to be something strange when you calling me out of the blue, because we have a level of communication so much that when we do talk and have our communication, we can be able to already know what's going on with the whole situation. So communicate with God. Talk to your Father. He'll begin to talk to you, and God will talk to you. Maybe in your inner man, you will just feel that was God. Sometimes he'll speak to you in dreams. He'll speak to you while you're sleeping at night and give you some understanding about things. But it's always being constant in prayer. All the time. Pray without ceasing. And that way, when you do need God, when there is actually an emergency, those angels who have been feeding off of the prayers. See, because the angels are in glory. They're in heaven, and they travel back and forth. And we're going to talk about a little bit about that today with the story of Jacob. But they travel back and forth from the earth realm to the heavens realm, from the earth realm to the heavens realm. And they are able to excel and grow in strength based upon our ability to create a level of glory around us, because that angel feeds off the glory of God, the presence of God, the things of God. Those angels eat that. That's angel food for them. They don't eat bread. They don't drink, what we drink. They live off the presence of God. So when we create a presence of God, when we talk to God, God talks back to us. It's him. It's his presence. It's his glory that enters and invades into your room. And then the angels that are assigned there begins to move on your behalf. So that if you keep a continual life of prayer, those angels are always feeding off the glory of God, and they're always moving according to the words and the movement of God. That's their only assignment to do, is the God thing. And so now your prayer, because you was made in the image of God, is now going to allow your life to be in a different position. You're going to have the advantage. You're going to have the leg up. You're going to have the first foot forward, because you have dedicated your life to prayer. And like I said, prayer does not always because you need, give me, give me, give me. It's just that communication with God is so important to communicate. Can't stress that enough. It's about the communication. It's really about the love and the fellowship with who you are with God, and it's just you guys are always communicating together. And the more that you talk to him, the more he'll speak to you. The more that you spend time with him, the more time he'll spend with you. It's really about you guys just really getting to know each other, you guys getting to understand each other, and you guys having a great time. So remember to pray. Pray always. Pray without ceasing. Be anxious for nothing, but with prayer and supplication, make your requests known to God. Pray always and never faint. Pray, 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 pray. And the reality is, if there isn't any more time to pray, it would really be now. We're going into an election. We're dealing with all these pandemics. We're dealing with a lot of things just naturally. And so prayer is one of those key elements that we're going to need to be able to grow into the next season and a dimension of your life. God can show you your next season through your prayer. He can show you what to avoid and what not to avoid in your prayer. God can be able to just minister to your family through prayer. And so prayer is super, 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 super important. It's what's a key that God has given us while we're here on earth, is to pray. So use that gift. If I give you $1,000 and you put the $1,000 in your pocket and you never use the $1,000, what good is the $1,000? You just have $1,000 in your pocket. The $1,000 was for you to use. It wasn't for you to put into your savings account and just let it sit and to save. Because the more that you use that $1,000, the more I'm going to give you money. If you're not going to use the $1,000, then what's the purpose of me giving you the money? So use prayer. Use it. It's very valuable. It's more precious than money. It's more precious than gold. It's more precious than relationships, friendships, anything. Prayer. Pray, 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 pray. Now, when I was trying to figure out what to do this week, what to talk about, what we're going to, dive into and dissect for you guys today, I was first hearing talk about prayer, which we have touched on prayer today. And as I was in prayer one day, God began to actually just show me this great revelation about Jacob. The Bible is not just a book of do nots and don't do's. The actual Bible is a book filled with God's interaction with mankind. You see the lives of men and women, and you see the life of God. You see those two worlds come together and help us to understand who we are and what God is, because we were all made in human form and human image. All of us has the ability to access who we are through God and through his word. And so I don't want you to think the Bible is these and thous and don'ts. I don't want you to think the Bible was something that was made for slavery. That's the biggest deception in the world. And it kind of saddens me a little bit to think that people really believe that the Bible and Christ and Christianity was only made for the point of slavery. But if you're that intellectual, and a lot of people say to use that as being smart, well, I need you to go back and do a little bit more history and a little bit more research, because even before slavery, there was already historians who wrote about the Bible that had nothing to do with Christianity. There were certain leaders in the Eastern world that ran governments and ran nations that knew about this religion, but it wasn't the dominant religion at that time. They used a lot of pagan gods and other different type of religions, and what they did was let those be the major religions, and then this Christianity was kind of a new thing. Even the Jews didn't even so much of it embrace this Christianity, which it wasn't even called Christianity. It was just called the Way. The name was changed to Christianity as a result of us understanding that Christ is the center. But it actually was called the Way. And before even what we have been known as Christianity, so it always exists. So the Bible is just giving us the understanding to show us our existence and to understand who we are. So we're going over to the book of Genesis. We're going to start at the beginning. I mean, that's always a good place to go. That's always the beginning. And so now we have Genesis, the 28th chapter. We're talking about this guy named Jacob. Now, what God began to minister to me while in prayer was about covenant. A covenant is the ability to make an oath or a vow and not to be broken. That's the purpose of the covenant. You see when people get married, they give all of these vows, and they say for better or for worse, for sickness and health, as long as you both shall live. It becomes a covenant. It becomes a bond together that's not made to be broken, regardless, good, bad, ugly, or sad. Beautiful or sad, we are in covenant. And so God began to speak to me about covenant. And he began to speak to me about covenant about this guy. His name is Jacob. Now, Jacob is the third generation of this man whose name is Abraham. And God made a covenant with this man named Abraham. And he said, I'll make a covenant with you, and I'll bless all of your children and all of your seeds forever. Even after you die, you're gone. My covenant will still stand. It'll still stand throughout time, throughout seasons, throughout economics, throughout famines, throughout sickness, throughout disease, throughout good, throughout bad, throughout sin, throughout all of this. My covenant will still remain with you, because God is so perfect. There is no flaws in him. If he makes a covenant, just because he's so perfect, he'll keep his covenant with us. So it's very important that we go into covenant with him. Covenant through his son. He gave his son, whose name is Jesus, who was the greatest thing we could ever have, we could ever experience, and he made a covenant through him. So we have access through this covenant. It's by faith. We receive it free. It's no cost to you. It's free. It's just asking him to come into your life and to be God, and allowing that and trusting in that his ability to be God is what gives us the righteousness, because God moves about that, because he understands that we know that it was him that's really doing the good in us. It's not us. We don't have in us the ability to do good. If we did, then Christ would have never had to come. So Christ came, and he makes a covenant with us, so that we can have life. And so to help us to understand better about what a covenant really is, he shows us through the Old Testament. And then he shows us through this man named Abraham, who didn't have any children. And God began to speak to him about covenant. And he says, listen, I'm going to give you children. I'm going to bless your life. And it's going to flow through generations. And he doesn't have a child at all. He doesn't have any children. But what happens is that God begins to bless his life, and he has a child. And then when he has this child, his name is Isaac. And one day God asks Isaac and says, hey, I want you to take Isaac up, and I want you to sacrifice him for me. I want you to, put him on the altar and give him to me. As a form of worship. And so because Abraham understands that God gave him that child, and he understands it was only because of God that he got that child, he was willing to give that child back to God, because he would even never been in that position if it had not been for God. So a lot of times we are in positions that God gives us, and then we're not willing to sacrifice that position that we have, and only because of God that we have that position. So Abraham has no reserve in doing what God is asking him to do, because God has built a relationship with him. They have built a relationship together. Abraham would get up in the mornings and pray and just talk to God every day, because he always wanted to be able to keep God with him. And he just wanted to be around God. We get to that point. You'll get to that point. And some of us are at that point. We just want to be around God. People are cool, things are great, money is wonderful, money answers all things. That's great, relationships are wonderful with each other, but it's that presence of God that we need. Sometimes we look for it in other things. It may be in friends, it may be in addictions, it may be in self. Sometimes it may be even in our own children, or even in our own spouses, that we're looking for that level of love or communication, or just that transition, that transformation of just being able to have something close to us to help us to be able to enjoy the things of life. And what God is saying is that in him everything exists, and he can make the relationship with those around you even better when you are in a great relationship with him. So now he goes to give his son, and of course God doesn't allow him to kill his son. He performs a sacrifice, holds a sacrifice in the bush, and he's able to use the sacrifice for him. And so he gains favor, more favor with God. Isaac grows up, and he lives his life, and now Isaac is having some children. He begins to have some children, and he has this child named Jacob, and there's also another with him. His name is Esau. There are two twin boys. Can't go into the revelation of all these things, and I wish we really could, but that's what the website is for. It helps you to get a better understanding of what God is saying symbolically through a lot of the stories. See, some of the stories that we read are good to take it as face value, but a lot of the undertones are much deeper than what we can see. How can I explain that? Under your feet right now there is water that's running through pipes. That water is going to go up through the pipes, and you go into your house, go into your bathroom, go into your kitchen, go into your shower. We don't see the water under us. It's much deeper than us, up under us, but when it's time for it to be revealed, it may wash your hands, it may clean your dishes, it may be used for you to drink. So the scriptures are deeper revelations outside of the face value. We know that the water is under us. We know that it's in the pipes that are under us, but to get that access to it, we need to go and turn on that water faucet and turn on that pipe. So that's what the word is. Work with God. As long as we continue to work with the Father, we'll be able to get what we need. Sometimes he rushed the process. He wanted it so quick that he missed it. He went and got Leah. He got something cockeyed instead of getting Rachel. And that's a lot of times what happens with us. We get things, we get people, we get situations, we get circumstances, and we get them at the wrong timing, and it makes us to wait longer to get what we really desire from God. Listen, guys, we are out of time. We're out of time. Time has just flew again, and I wanted to go more in touch to it, but we have to pray. We have to invite people into the things of God before the broadcast ends. So listen, if you're not saved, if you don't know God, if you have not experienced this man named Jesus, who is the Son of God, then today is your day. You're not here by accident. This is not a coincidence. This is not just a happenstance that you're listening to this message or listening to these words today. God has specifically designed a plan strictly for you, and he's ready for you to walk into the fullness of what he has desired for you. So if you don't know Jesus, listen, just say with me, dear Jesus, come into my heart. Come into my life. Forgive me for all the things that I've done. I accept you as the ransom for those things. I accept you as my Savior. Show me who you are, and I'll love you forever. Listen, if you said that prayer, it's just that simple. Just believe it. Jesus is going to visit you. He's going to talk with you and show you who he is. Find you a Bible, read it, crack it open, and get to know who you are and who your God is. And God is going to change your life forever. So happy, so happy. Welcome to the kingdom. Go over to thepowerofthevoice.com. Shoot me an email, shoot me a message. I'd love to be able to talk and to pray with you so that you can grow in the things of God. So happy you guys are here today. I want to pray with you all. Father, we thank you today for this opportunity to come before